Hi, I'm Sasha from the Balanced Canine and this is Gav the Dane, and today we're going to show you how to make a zero waste bone broth. That's right, zero waste, use everything. All right, let's go.
To start with, you're going to need 2 kilos of chicken feet. Now, sometimes people do use different types of chicken bones and that's totally up to you. My experience though is just with chicken feet and the amazing gelatine type broth it makes. You're going to get some apple cider vinegar. The one with the mother in it is the best, and that's with the floaty bits in it, and you can usually get them from your health food store. You're going to want to put in around about 4 tablespoons in this 5.5 litre cooker. Next up, you're going to cover the bones with water all the way to the brim. Now you're going to go ahead and slow cook this for 24 hours. I do recommend that you do this outside because it can be particularly stinky. I do mine in my garden shed. Just make sure that the dogs can't access it if you're leaving them unsupervised with it. And here we are 24 hours later. Looks pretty good, right? As good as chicken feet can look. So the next thing we're going to do is actually get the bones out. So you're going to need a pot, sieve, colander, bowl, whatever you want to use. Now what some people do is actually pick up that slow cooker and pour all the liquid into a colander or sieve. Mine was actually a little bit too full, so what I've had to do here using tongs is actually get out all the chicken feet and just pop them into another pot. All right, so go ahead and do that the best you possibly can. Do be careful if you're working with a hot pot with all the steam, and you might get splashed as well. Once you've got all those bones out, you're going to either keep the bone broth in the original ceramic bowl, or you can transfer it into another bowl, pop it into the fridge and put a lid on it or some sort of covering, and you're going to let it sit there overnight and set. It should turn into a beautiful thick jelly consistency. Okay, here's where the no waste part comes in. I'm going to take those chicken feet that I just pulled out of the slow cooker and I'm going to blend them down in my blender. It needs to be a blender that can crush ice, very important. And this is what it looks like afterwards. It should be ground down to a nice paste. So there's a few different things we can do with this paste. In this example and the next, I'm going to show you that you can either use the paste to put into molds and either put into the fridge or into the freezer for later use. Now, if you put these into the fridge, they will hold steady, almost like a mousse. It's really lovely. Or chuck them in the freezer and you can just use them later on as you wish. In this next example, I'm going to show you how to make some cookies. So you're going to take your paste and you're going to lay it out on your dehydrator tray with some baking paper. Just spoon it out onto it. Now usually you'll have enough for 1 or 2 trays depending on how thick you want it. In this example, I'm just going to be using the 1 tray and I'm going to just smooth it out. It is a bit of a sticky mixture. To smooth it out the best you can. Just keep in mind the thicker it is, the longer it's going to take to dehydrate. And if it doesn't dry in the middle, then it's going to be more prone to molding later on when it's sitting in your treat jars. Grab a knife or something sharp because now you're going to draw lines in your little paste here, because after it's dehydrated you want to be able to break it up into little pieces that can be like little biscuits. Now some people do use things like pizza rollers, but I find with this particular consistency that it just really gets caught up in there. So for me, this is kind of the best way that I do it. So go along and just push some lines in. You're going to go vertically and then horizontally as well. All right, now you're ready to go and pop these in the dehydrator. Length of time, you're just going to have to keep checking on them. So I ended up leaving my bone broth cookies in the dehydrator overnight, and that way I didn't have to keep checking on them. I left them in there at about 70 to 75 degrees. Now what I'm doing whilst they're still warm is I'm actually breaking them up. Those lines that we drew on earlier, this is where it comes in. Otherwise, you'd sort of be breaking them into random shaped pieces. This helps you get a little bit more conformity to it as well. Now, just be sure to allow them to fully cool before you put them in a jar. And here's a taste test with the little man. Give him one to have a little bit of a think about. He's a Labrador cross. He tends to like anything. Let's give him another one, see what he thinks. Will he go back for seconds? Yep, it's a winner. Once they're completely cool, go ahead and store them either in a glass container, you can leave them on the bench, in the fridge, whatever you like. And if you don't think that you dehydrated them for long enough and there's still some moisture in there, you can just put them in bags or a container and put them in the freezer. It's not going to freeze them per se, but it's going to stop them from molding, and your dog will be more than happy to have a piece taken out of the bag in the freezer. Once your bone broth has set overnight in the fridge, you're going to take it out and then scrape the fat off. This is really important. You don't want to be feeding that rendered fat to your dog. Okay, here's the test. How well did this broth actually turn out? The thicker, the better. Oh, it looks pretty good. Yep, look at that. Lovely thick consistency. So you can go ahead and put this in the container. It'll last for about a week in the fridge, so freeze anything that you're not going to use in a week.